All right, Mr. Malp, like I like it. We're going to do an arrangement breakdown. The whole point of these is just to understand arrangements, especially at the top level. Arrangement is definitely one of the skills that producers have the hardest time with. It can involve breaking out of the loop, requires arrangement skills, finishing a track requires arrangement skills. And so hopefully this video will kind of give you a language in terms of understanding arrangements so that number one, you know what you need in your drops. And so you can kind of know if you have enough. Number two, what you need in your breaks so that when you're working on a drop and you say, okay, well, I got kind of what I need. Let me now start working on the break. Then you can kind of start using those concepts. And then when you finish a song, you got to tell the story of your track over time, specifically how the hooks, like vocals and sound design, and how your groove, like drums and bass, develop over time. So those are kind of the concepts that we're going to be looking at. And we're going to be using Malp's track Like I Like It to start to understand arrangement a little bit better. And so go ahead and take any secrets and techniques and ideas and concepts from this video and start applying them in your own music to make arrangement easier and to arrange tracks that are basically better, right? Meaning that you'll be able to take your track and give it to like a DJ, or you can play it yourself as a DJ, and it's going to tell the right kind of story in the club. So it'll get people excited. The dance floor will be moving. The DJ will look cool and you will look cool. All right. So that's what's most important. Let's dive in. Here we go. Oh, what's going on? There's a big break right here, and I have no idea why. So I downloaded this from Beatport, so I'm not sure what's going on, but there's a little bit of a bar missing, but that's okay. So we're going to ignore that, and we're just going to pretend that it was there. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just start creating MIDI clips based on what we need. And of course, you can download this MIDI map for free and use it as a kind of template to make your own track. And if this is your kind of thing, if you want to watch super long tech house breakdowns, then subscribe. Let's go. Boom. All right. So some really interesting things, like in the intro, I always say that the intro is for DJs, not producers. And so a lot of times it's just getting this like beat in there. So I'm going to write beat here, and beat, is just drums, and I'm just going to use a generic kind of label for that. But something else that comes up in intros is just something unique, something of an identifier, usually rhythmic. You don't want to introduce a lot of hooks in here because that can prevent DJs from playing your tracks. For example, it's not going to prevent every DJ from playing your track, but if you keep it really, really simple, like for example, think Chris Lake and his intro, sometimes just kick hat, high pass kick hat, makes it easy for literally anybody to play. And so, but this right here is rhythmic. It's interesting. It's a little bit of a track identifier. So you got the kick, you got the hat, you've got the snare, and you have that kind of tom rhythm, and then you have this kind of weird kind of percussion in the background. So I'm just going to call this like texture. And so let's just call this texture. And the point of the reason why I'm calling this like texture, and I'm not trying to break it down too specifically, is that if you're going to use this as an arrangement map, or if you're going to do this exercise yourself, which I highly recommend, then you don't need to pin yourself down and try to go one-to-one, like I need to recreate that texture. Not at all. You just got to find something textural, something unique. So you'll see a lot of the labels are just going to be a little bit higher level because I'm purposely zooming out. One of the traps, referencing traps that people get into is they try to end up recreating the track that they're referencing, and that's not the goal, all right? And so a lot of this video is just kind of zooming out and understanding what the big pieces are, and then filling that in your own way, all right? So let's keep on going. A little bit of a fill. There's also this really interesting kind of sustain on that. Dun, dun, dun. All right, cool. And so here we're going to get the full kick. So let's type that in, full kick. We're just going to label this as HP. And cool. I'm also going to get like a little bit of an edit map. And edits for me are typically little things that happen at the end of like 8 bars where you kind of remove the low end or something. But I'm also just going to track fills on here as well. So edit, maybe we'll just call this /fill. And so this is just a little bit of a kick fill. And I'll label that, you know, like kick fill's not the most unique thing in the world. So if you do a kick fill, it's not like everyone's going to call you out. No one's ever going to call you out anyway. So it doesn't really matter. But no one's going to call you out for doing a little bit of a kick fill. Hey, that's like now. All right, you can hear the 303 style bass coming in. So we're going to do bass, and I'll just write 303. There we go. And so I'm going to color that. I'm going to actually color both of these red. Red is my low frequency color, and since I'm putting the kick in the beat, usually my drums are orange. It makes no difference. No one cares. Let's keep going. Here we go. So interesting thing about this is I'm going to write that this is high pass down, and there's also like a reverb on it. You can hear that it's in a space right now as it kind of comes down. And there's these kind of like 808 snares that keep on playing. So there's these 808 snares that keep playing. So I'm just going to write that. So snare fill 808, right? And this kick fill right here is kind of probably anomalous. I don't think it kind of plays that much. So I'm just going to leave it here in the edit map. But these kind of 808 fills here, those kind of snares right there, I am going to 808-ish color those. Cool. So here we have a little bit of a down effects, and there's three kind of effects that you can have in general. Again, abstracting away, zooming out, right? This is a really good example of just zooming out, because you could get crazy with the kinds of effects, right? White noise riser, tonal riser, LFO riser. You know, maybe an LFO riser is this, it's a laser riser. Maybe it's a laser riser that has a LFO moving up on a saw wave. Maybe it's a laser riser that has a LFO moving down. Like, you can get crazy with the specificity. But if we zoom all the way out, there's really only three effects that you can use. So we have effects down, we can have effects up, or we can have effects accent, right? And down would be like meow, where you're settling the energy. Effects up would be like wah, where you're building tension, right? And then effects accent would be like a crash, so you're accenting a moment. You're saying, hey, this is cool, this is exciting. So here we go. So here's some more 808 snares. So a little bit more dramatic, which makes sense because we're reaching the end of the 8 bars here. So I love that little 808 kind of symbol there. Like, so full kick. Obviously the vocal comes in now. What's going on with the bass right here? So it just kind of keeps on going. Let's go ahead and get the vocal. And so this is, I'm going to call this female. There we go. Cool. So where's that start? So this starts right around there. Cool. So this is called the this is called a pickup melody. And so I love pickup melodies because pickup melodies are really cool for when you're going into a drop. Like when you have a build. Let me just show you so you know what the heck I'm talking about. Imagine you had like build, or like right here actually. Like build, and then it stops. And then pickup melodies are really nice to just have that kind of pull you into the drop. So got to like, and then boom, you explode into the drop. Yeah, really cool, really useful, but you can hear the kind of low mids of the bass really starting to come through right here. There's an up effect. You can hear a riser, so we'll just kind of go like that. It's pretty gentle in the background right now, but so that's going to carry all the way through here. So let's just Command J that. And this one is a little bit of a tonal riser. So I'll go ahead and make a note of that, right? I don't need to go too specific. It is an up effect, but just to give one extra degree of specificity, we'll just call that a tonal riser. So here we're high passing on the kick and the groove overall, or the drums. Cool little random cowbell. You can hear the up effects getting a little crazy, getting detuned, right? So that's another kind of dimension that's on it right there. Cool, and then we get the cut. So let's go ahead and cut this, and we'll cut this probably. Let's see. All right, cool. That's sweet. I'm going to color this yellow just so it stands out. Now that's really cool because if I go to these guys here, that comes back, which is pretty cool, way over here in the main payoff. But obviously gets dragged out in a way dramatic way. Obviously, we're going to get all the way over there, but that's actually kind of cool. Like that kind of little glitch is previewed. We'll see if it kind of plays throughout too. Like I've only listened to this track a couple times, so I'm not 100% familiar. That's cool. Really cool thing to do just in general is just to glitch it, because then that just kind of wakes people up. The whole point of like building tension and then stopping that tension is to just get people to pay attention. And then get people to pay attention, right? So no tension, no attention. How about that? And then here, this just wakes people up and you deliver the payoff, right? Because people are paying attention. They're like, oh my God, that building energy just immediately stopped. What's going on? Oh my God, that cool vocal. And then that glitch, like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. But then that just kind of adds that's almost like a fill, almost like a roll into the drop right there. So really cool to do that. All right, let's see how the drums here differ from back here. So here we're going to get into the bass drop. So I'm going to go ahead and start creating an arrangement map here. So we'll just call this arrangement map. Cool. And actually this whole thing is arrangement map, but we'll just do this like a top level arrangement map. And so this right here is going to be the intro. Now this beginning part right here, I would call this just like an intro break. Right. A lot of times you could just get away with doing something like this. So if you just had, let's take this here and go like this. A lot of times you can just get away with like oh man, I butchered it. Like this is what I want. You can get away with just like a 16 bar intro going to a bass drop where you just drop the bass. So actually that's not it. So go like something like this. And then I'm going to move on because dear Lord. All right, so let's duplicate this here and then go like this. Boom, cool. But now he's getting creative, so let's keep going. Cool.
Hey, yo, turn my headphones up a little bit. Hey, yo, turn my headphones up a little bit. Hey, yo, turn my headphones up a little bit.
So we got the full bass. Here we're going to get a male vocal. So let's go Vox male. Cool. Now we'll just do Vox. Cool.
Hey, yo, turn my headphones up a little bit.
go. So kind of at the end there. Cool. All right, let's probably have the texture in here. So no texture in there. What about right here? Almost impossible to hear. Let's see.
Hey, yo, turn my headphones up a little bit.
And then we have those snares. Did I miss them back here? Let me see.
Hey, yo, turn my headphones up a little bit.
Cool. And so this just kind of introduces the bass. So that's the bass drop. This is kind of break one. And so we'll just go like break one a little bit. And cool. So this is going to be high pass right here at HP.
Hey, mama, I don't want to be too disrespectful.
Okay, bass is high passed as well. You can hear the up effects coming in. So we'll just go right like that. And I'm just going to move these guys up here like that. So it'll be accent up and down. All right. So we have a little bit of delay on this vocal right here. So that's cool because that's a little bit of like momentum carrying over, right?
Hey, mama, I don't want to be too disrespectful. Hey, mama, I don't want to be too disrespectful. I want to use the right words here. I mean, you got a whole lot more than a little bit. She got
This is the first time I heard She Got. That's actually really cool. I'm going to put that on its own track because that's kind of like its own vocal. So watch She Got. So I'm going to go like this. And that's really cool.
She got
Nah, that's definitely just this vocal. Probably just a couple takes of it just stacked a little bit.
Hey, mama, I don't want to be too disrespectful. I want to use the right words here. I mean, you got a whole lot more than a little bit. She got
Cool. And then do we have that fill right here?
I want to use the right words here.
Yep. So and then over here as well.
She got
Cool. That is an accent effect right here when you hear that go in. So what about over here? What about... So no accent effect going in there. You can hear just going clean, which I love when that happens. Watch.
Hey, yo, turn my headphones up a little bit.
Interesting kind of reverb or texture on that hat. Like you can hear you hear kind of like a chunky mid-range hat pan just slightly right, but there's this kind of higher level kind of texture on there. It could be a reverb from the hat, could just be another sample back there. It's like...
Hey, yo, turn my headphones up a little bit.
One thing you can pay attention to too is when at first it's a snare hit and then the snare is down the middle on the 2 and the 4, but when it goes wide, there's a clap that plays wide on the 4. So it goes kick, snare, kick, and then the same snare but then a wide clap. So
Hey, yo, turn my headphones.
now there's probably a million names for that technique, but the one that I use is breathing the clap. And so you can just think of it as like in and out, right? So breathing in and then breathing out. And so like here's in, out, in, out, in,
Hey, yo, turn my
out.
headphones up a little bit.
Cool.
Use the right words here. I mean, you got a whole lot more than a little bit. She got
All right, cool. So this is where we start getting into what I call a hook drop. A hook drop is where you put the hooks over the groove. Really simple, you know? So here we got introduced to the groove. The groove for me is just the drums and the bass. There's a million ways to use the word. The way that I'm using it technically now is just the drums and bass. And so here we have the groove, just the drums and bass. Here we're getting introduced to the vocal. And here. So the hooks and the groove have not yet come together. Like the main hook, the primary hook, that female vocal, and the groove, the drums and bass, have not yet come together. But here they come together. And that's why this is the hook drop. So where you put the hook that you teased over here, and maybe over here? Nah, not over here. This is just the male vocal. So the main hook over here, tease it, and then you bring the hook and groove together right there. And so this is a big moment in the track. And do we get that accent effect? There it is.
Yes, how I like it.
And now we're going to start getting kind of like the hook pattern. And so here in the first part, we're going to get to the A section, B section. But here we starting to get the female-male interaction. And so, again, putting the hooks over the groove. And so here we have the female hook and we have the male hook. And so here now in the first hook drop, we're getting now both of them over the top. I would say that this female vocal is probably the main hook, and the male vocals, just kind of this cool kind of secondary hook, but they're both together now over the groove. That's the whole point. All right, cool. All right, so let's map these out and we can see how they interact.
Yes, how I like it.
Cool. And so the female vocal.
Yes, how I like it.
So this is kind of like a I'm going to color this something different. So this will be like, I'm going to write verb, but specifically, what is that reverb doing? Pushing the vocal back in the mix. Why are we pushing the vocal back in the mix? Because here's the male vocal up front, right? The male vocal is intimate. It's almost whispery. Male vocal is up front, in front, oh gosh, of the female vox. Probably a more concise way to say that, but whatever. Okay.
Yes, how I like it.
Cool. Let's get rid of that.
How I like it. She got it. She got it. She got it.
So just some really cool cutting on the vocals right here, where that reverb vocal just cuts.
She got it.
I need to make sense of that because that's really cool. So
She got it.
all right, and then here's the she gotta. So
She got it.
So this vocal definitely cuts here, but where is it cutting? It seems like it's cutting with the snare and the fill. So let's actually map out the snare fill so we can kind of see this more precisely. Now, earlier in the video, I was talking about how you don't want to go too one-to-one on the reference, but I want to figure this out because I think it's cool. Like I like the way that all three of these elements here are interacting, where you have that female vocal now and back. It cuts in an interesting way. The snare fill is playing, and then we have this male vocal again. So I just want to make sense of that. Doesn't mean in my track, if I was going to use this as a reference, I need to go one-to-one on this kind of crazy interaction, but I do want to understand it. So let's see. So let's map this out. So I'm going to go over to 16th notes here, because for a snare roll, most of the time, unless you're getting crazy in like the main build, you can just mostly do 16th notes. So I think... Okay, let's see. Okay, so it's actually pretty simple. So we got one on the kind of second 16th, and then we just have like two, right? You can even think of that one as just the main kind of snare, but it just goes. So let's see. Okay, so that's pretty simple. And does it cut under the snare? Interesting. It just cuts on that 16th, right? Is there any note right there that triggers the cut? One of the things that you can think about, for example, is if you're going to cut a reverb like that, which could be really cool, is there another sound, though, that triggers the cut? If not, like this is just kind of like this cool kind of weird moment. But let's see. Not really. Like the only thing I hear right here is the bass. But even then, it's not doing anything crazy that triggers the cut. But I like it. Unless I'm not hearing something. Sometimes what you gotta do is like turn it down. This is probably insane for you, but you know, whatever. I'm trying to figure this out. Let's see. I like how this snare like actually kind of accents the movement on the bass. So bookadit, the bass moves that bookadit, and this snare kind of helps push that bass upwards. So right here, the is where the bass kind of goes bum ba da bookadit bum ba da. So I guess you could say that the bass is kind of triggering that. It's just a cool move. And so we'll move on now, but that's kind of how I'm making sense of it, is that when the bass starts to move back down, like that's kind of what's cutting the reverb. That's cool. All right, cool. I like it. I like it. Let's turn the utility off here and let's get back to normal volume. So be careful. Volume's coming up.
Yes, how I like it.
All right, so now we're repeating the pattern. Probably one of the most important concepts is when we're talking about hooks over groove, the next layer down of that and understanding would be a pattern. And this is the pattern. So we have a whole lot more of a little bit, and then that vocal moves back with reverb. We get the male vocal, and that pattern is probably going to repeat right here. We're going to see how things get switched up over there. And then we'll see this pattern probably repeat here. All right. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yes, how I like it.
All right. Okay, cool. So a little bit of the male vocal here, but kind of more of like an edit too. Let's see how it works. So here we're getting this kind of like snare roll, and that sounds. That's definitely a different snare, so I'm going to get a little bit detailed. So sometimes I'll call these arrangement maps macro maps, and macro maps are really where you just map out the big things. Like up here, this is like the macro of macro maps, because these are just the kind of arrangement sections. But this is starting to get a little bit of a micro map, because I'm starting to really dive in here and map this stuff out. But a lot of it's cool, so that's why I'm trying to understand it. So there we go. So that's just 16th. So we'll just go to 16th, which is already at, and then we will just go like this, and we'll just loop around this guy. There we go. Now we have a little bit of our roll, and cool. Different snare sound. So I suspect that that's going to be a theme. So where are those male vocals playing? So here we have like an Whoops. Let's get rid of this. Loom just started randomly. Cancel recording. And let's get rid of this guy. This guy. Okay, here we go. Let's get out of here. Loom. Okay, Loom. Let's quit. There you go. Get out of here. All right. So here's the So this is Yeah. See, it gets cut off in the same way. She's carrying a whole lot more than a little bit. That's funny. All right, so let's move over. And then here we have the next 8 bars. So let's keep going.
She carrying on.
All right, so here we're getting a hat lift. So I'm going to create a new thing right here. This is going to be hat lift. So a hat lift is where you just lift with a hat, okay? You lift the energy abruptly by just bringing a new hat in. So if you listen right here, so pretty small hat. And so I wonder if we're able to see this. If I come over to the master chain and I turn on an LFO tool here, and I just open up this, if I turn on the high pass and run it through the LFO tool, you see it's a pretty small hat, like it's nothing crazy right now. But as soon as I pop over here, a little bit chunkier, you can hear that. Very small, gets a little bit chunkier, right? A little bit, there's a little bit of a wide layer in there now, and so that's cool.
Yes, how I like it. She got a whole lot.
Cool, and so you can see how that is now repeated. However, what's really cool is now there's a male vocal that plays over this one right here, this female vocal. So
she got a whole lot more than a little bit.
That's really cool. I like that. Is there this guy? No. Okay, cool. So let's get rid of that.
She got a whole lot more than a little bit.
Okay, so we don't have this guy, but we're obviously going to get those chords. So let's get chords and color that this color. So we'll just map this out. Why not? So here we go. So I think this lasts for an eighth note. So, come on. There we go.
Yeah. She got it. Yeah. She got it.
Okay, and then there's a little bit of a note change there. The cool thing about this right here, this note, is that you can hear the vibrato on it. So let's go vibrato. And then I'm going to also just get rid of this vibrato on that last one. But it'll go bam, bam, vibrato. And maybe the vibrato is going to be on this guy. But what happens on here is that you have like a slow attack on the vibrato. So like the vibrato comes in slowly over time. So there's also a sub under that. So I'm just going to put chord sub. And so let's just go like this. There's no vibrato on the sub though, but cool. All right, let's figure out what the heck else is going on. So obviously here we have an edit, just classic. What are we doing? Are we high passing? Are we cutting the kick? What's going on? So there's no kick, so the kick is just gone. So let's just do like kick cut here, kick cut. What about the bass? So bass is gone. That's cool. So I like how the vocal and this guy are interacting. Now that interaction I think is set up even before. So I think right there. And then right here, so yeah. So and then again right here. A little bit quieter though, so here it's a little bit louder. That could be a master limiter thing, or it could be a mixing automation thing. Who knows? All right, here we have the snare right there. You can hear that this vocal right here starts to low pass down a little bit. So check it out. Okay, what else? Okay. Okay, so you can hear a bigger kind of snare roll there. So or not snare roll, but snare fill. So let's go to 16th right here. And so you can hear this guy. So then obviously that guy again, but. All right, we'll just leave these guys, whatever. It sounds like they might be there. Maybe not though. I don't think that they're. It's hard to hear. It really is. I'm going to leave him. Whatever. Let's go. All right, cool. This is what I wanted to kind of get to. Let's go one level down on the arrangement map here. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to map out a structure. And we will go to green again. There. And then this is going to be A equals vocal. And so when you're doing A section, B section, and a drop, which Mouthpiece is going to do, what you really want to focus on is boiling your A section down to one single word. So it's extremely simple. And so this is going to be classic A section, B section, which is going to be A section vocal, B section sound design. All right. Another one of my favorite tracks that just does this. So many tracks do this, I can't even name them. But another track that just does A section vocal, B section sound design, that's a flawless arrangement, is La Danza by John Summit. It's just perfect. Okay, so B, there we go. All right, cool. Let's check this out. Cool. Let's just get all the standard things over. So we need the bass and the kick. And there we go. And then let's see if we have the same hat. Yep, that guy's still there. All right, now here we have an accent. So let's bring this over. We also have another kind of accent, but it's a vocal accent or entry. And so if we then go Vox, what should I do? Should I have this as an effect, or we'll just do Vox entry? Whatever. So an entry is just something that triggers, especially the B section. Like that's definitely an entry because it's just something that kickstarts a new section. And so we'll go ahead and just pop this guy in, and we'll call this woo, as long as I can get away with. All right, cool. Let's go. All right, and then we have that really eerie, awesome melody. So let's see. So melody. And we get that kind of cowbell again right there. That's a funny, what a funny thing. All right, I'm going to map that out just because I find it hilarious. I said hilarious. I meant to say hilarious. All right, so here we go. There it is again. So let's just map this guy out here. Maybe we'll just map it out in a MIDI clip. Let's see. That's on the 16th. Whatever. I'm just going to map it out like this. So if we go in here, let's go to 16th. It's already on. Let's go. So there it is. And let's just move this guy on to C3. There we go. All right. And there's the cowbell. And I'm going to label this cowbell low. There we go. Cool. And then is that play anywhere else? No. What about second 8 right here?
Hey mama, I don't want to be too disrespectful.
Right here. Okay, second 8 a drop. No, but the first 8 of the B section right there is just hidden underneath the synth right there. That's really funny. All right, so we have the melody, cool, and then we'll go like this. Bum, bum, bum. So let's see. Bum. Okay, cool. So he's just going, so that's going to be E flat. So that's technically that's going to be the same as D sharp. Boom. Bum, bum, bum. And then he's going up to A. Boom, bam. This is going to be the wrong kind of rhythm right now, but let's see. Oh, is the cowbell hits right here? Does the note, I think they hit at different times. Yeah, so the cowbell hits here, but the note for the synth hits right there. I think I got that right, actually. Okay, cool. Let's loop around that because that's going to repeat, but then it has a little bit of a turnaround after a while. So let's hit duplicate a couple times. There we go. So then he just doubles it up right there. And so that's kind of the turnaround. And again, I love that because, man, you really don't have to overthink this stuff. When you just add that extra note, what it does is just increases the pacing of it. It just speeds it up. It's just one little move, but it just makes it feel that much faster, and it creates that more forward momentum into the next section. You might think I'm overthinking that, but I'm really not. That's exactly what's going on. But you don't need to do anything crazy. You don't have to like completely change the melody, especially in like tech house where you kind of just want to keep it repetitive and hypnotic, you know. Oh, hold up. This last note. So, hold up. Is that note there? No. But that goes down in the next 8 bars here. So let's go like this, pop that down an octave, because now he's going down an octave. So, but that hilarious cowbell comes over again. Cool, and then that's going to repeat. Okay, so we're getting... Let's make sure we have everything else. So let's start up at the top. So we have the drums. And real quick, I'm going to empty my trash on the computer just so Camtasia doesn't end up freaking out on me for no reason at all. All right, here we go. So there's definitely this texture that comes in. Hear that beow, beow, beow. And this boo, boo, boo. Is that the same as what's going on over here? Let's see if this texture comes back. All right, so listen out for that. What about right here now? Nah, there's not. So I'm just going to create, so texture, I'm going to call this an owl for the first one because that's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like there's an owl in the mix, like, woo, woo, you can hear it. So let's just go like this. So basically when I say owl, that's probably not going to be helpful for you. So just some kind of low mid texture is what I'm listening for. And we could probably even isolate it. So let's see, let's go to delete because it just got... Ah, my bad. So that's actually the entry. Oh my God, how embarrassing. I was listening too quickly, but what that is, that owl texture that I was thinking about is, that's just delay on this guy. So let's go like this, delay. And we'll just color that a different color so you can see. All right, so here we have a female vocal right there. So cool, let's come back up at the top. So we got the full kick, we got the full bass. Still have that hat lift. Is that texture in there? Man, I swear. Yeah, I think it is. Yes, that texture is absolutely in there. I was just getting distracted by the entry delays. So you can definitely hear that texture in there. So, especially right there, the wow, 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 wow. Okay, cool. Ooh, you hear that little hat skip? Watch. Psst, right, that really bright splash hat. Does that happen elsewhere?
Yes, how I like it. She got a whole lot.
It does not. All right, so let's get like a, I'm just going to call this hat, I'll call it splash. Bright. So the interesting thing, a lot of times the splash hat will happen on the 8th note. So do ba do pss. But this is happening on the 16th note. So right there is where this guy's happening. Now, as I zoom out, that's going to end up being like impossible to see. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a MIDI clip and just map it in here. And that thing is freaking loud. That's really loud. The thing is, there's a lot of room up in the top end because he doesn't have like that loud of tops and hats. So then the cool thing is like the synth down here drops an octave, and so does this. So then we go, ooh, so I'm going to call this octave down. And this is also delay octave down. So there's a lot of little details going on here. You can hear that splash hat again. Where are those lasers coming from? So you can hear that laser right there. So a little bit of a bump. So a bump you could think of as like a sound that kind of plays after the entry, just to kind of bump that energy up just even a little bit more, just to give like an extra sound after. So this, we'll just call this like a bump. So this, I'll call it laser first, laser bump. So it's right there. So it just kind of down sweeps, right? And then again, there's a delay on it. So we'll go delay. I'm going to color that a different color. Maybe we'll just go like that. So then this, oh, hold up. Yeah, this is delay right here. Cool. So let's color this a different color, and this will be delay. Whoops. So Command R, delay, and A. There we go. Maybe we'll put that over here. All right, man, this section is getting crazy, but there's a lot of cool details here, and we could probably step back and break this down in a second, but let's do it. All right, and then of course we have our snare fills. This is getting a little bit busier though. So we're gonna have, so wait, hold up. Let's move this back over here. And this one's getting a little bit busier. Yep, so this is going ba-bum-ba-da. So over here, back over in this section, watch. You only have bum-ba-da. So here, which is the normal snare right there, and then these last two. But then this guy is going to be okay. So just, again, increasing the pacing, kind of similar to what's going on over here, but just getting things happening a little bit faster, a little bit more notes, right? You wait for the second fill here. There's nothing right there, but this just adds a little bit more syncopation, a little bit more notes, speed things up. Cowbell, and then we get the laser bump again. So I'm just going to duplicate this across so you can hear it right here. Okay, and then we get that splash hat. So what we could do is just kind of duplicate this over 4 bars like that. And then here we're going to get that splash hat. All right, and then just like before, we have this guy over. So let's duplicate this and just move him on over. So this was the thing that kind of triggered the edit. No, I'm sorry. This is the thing that triggered the kind of the first 8 bars of the A section, the second 8 bars of the A section. So same thing kind of here. All right, cool. And then she got it right there. So nothing too crazy after that. Let's see what's going on back here. All right, cool. So similar kind of thing.
She gotta.
And then she gotta, and then here we're gonna basically get the pattern again. So I'm gonna just copy all of this all the way down and maybe all the way down. Cool. And then let's see how much of it we're keeping. Let's see. So we definitely have the ooh, so this guy. And what about, do we get the cowbell? Let's just kind of go in kind of chronological order here and see if we're getting everything. So we're getting that kind of like ding. We get the ooh, do we get the cowbell? Yep, and then here we have the melody, of course. Now there's this kind of weird vocal texture, if you can hear it, vox texture. See what happens with it. I'll just put it in kind of prematurely here, but let's see. Ah, he's saying bounce. Okay, so bounce. Okay, so this is like a bounce rep. How often is he saying it? Let's map it. So, cool. So he's playing it, he's singing that on 8th notes. So we'll just go like that. Nope, my bad. Those are on quarters. So bounce, bounce, bounce. All right, cool. Let's see. Okay, so we have that. Do we have the delay? Let's see. Okay, we get the delay on the ooh and on the laser kind of bump. We're getting the melody. We're getting the bounce, bounce. Okay, we're getting the splash hat right here. And a little bit more. Okay, snare fill. Let's see. Yep, we're getting both of those still. Ah, we're getting a she gotta right here. So let's put that in here. Did we miss that before? Let's see. So, yep, we did. So let's drop that in just like that. Cool. And you can see, like, since I've done this literally hundreds of times, maybe thousands of times, when I see something like this, I know that music is so structural that I probably missed something back here. So if I go back and check it, it's probably going to be there. None of this stuff is random, you know. It's not stream of consciousness. It's just, it's so simple, right? Create a pattern and then just present it again. You know, it's the same things over and over and over. It's just done in different creative ways, different hooks, different grooves, different sounds, but the same concepts again and again and again and again. And like, yeah, this is basically the same video again and again and again and again, right? But I'm going to keep making them. And then we have this little, oh, that's cool. We got a little bit of a kind of a glitch, kind of this 30-second rule there. So, so I'm going to Command J this, and let's map that kind of, I think it's right here. Let's see. Whoops. Let's go there. So, but 1, 2, 3, 4, there you go. So yeah, we're getting that 30-second right there. So maybe I'll just color this slightly different just to kind of differentiate that one. So we still have she gotta right there. The bounce is still going. It comes up. I think it kind of gains up a little bit. So I'll just write that on there. Ah, we're going to get that little kind of accent effect, which is kind of an edit trigger sometimes, but you can hear that psst. Oh, my bad. No, that's actually just the splash hat. I thought there was like a little bit of a ding on top of the snare roll, but it's just the splash hat just before. Oh, hold up. That's interesting. So right here, you can see the splash hat hits on the snare. So I'm going to Command J this. I'm going to move this onto the snare. So if I play from right here, so the hat plays right there, you see that? So does that happen again before? I think it might not, but let's just see. Yeah, it does. Oh, damn. See? There we go. So this one plays on the 16th. This plays on the snare head right there.
She got it. She got it. She got it.
Woo, man. What a crazy section that is, but that was, I feel, definitely worth it. A lot of cool things going on there, and just want to listen to this one more time because it might be a good time to talk about punks. So let's see.
She got it. She got it.
I think so. We'll just create another little A-B structure right here, and I'm just going to call this punks. And so punks is just short for punctuation points. Again, if you've seen these videos, you've heard this a million times probably, but the concept never gets old. And then we never grow out of it. So punks, again, is short for punctuation points. And if you think about like an English sentence, you have like maybe a period at the end of the sentence, you have a comma in the middle. And so there's a natural hierarchy to, you could think of the drama of grammar, right? A comma is a less dramatic grammatical point, I guess, than a period. And so there's a grammar to 8-bar sections. And so, for example, usually more dramatic events will happen at the end of 8 bars, but there's almost always something that happens at the 4-bar mark as well. All right. And so that's the idea of a punk. So I'll say a punk or a punctuation mark at the 4-bar mark, or a punctuation at the 8-bar mark. So the shorthand for that is like P4 and then P8. And you can chunk down from there. So here's 4 and here's 8, but you can also do 2 and 6. Now 2 and 6 aren't as important as the 4 and 8, but you can chunk down. If you chunk down even further from 2 and 6, at a certain point you're just going bar by bar, which is totally okay. But the reason why I like punks as a concept is that you can call them ear candy, but I've always found ear candy to be an unhelpful concept when teaching students, because ear candy, almost by definition, is just do random shit, and that doesn't help anybody as a concept. But punks have a very definite structure to them and hierarchy to them. If a student of mine heard me say punks, they immediately know, like 4, 8, you need punks. So that means like, do something to the 4, maybe the 8, try something to the 2, the 6 maybe, but you need to start kind of getting these little hits of dopamine happening at the important structural moments of an 8-bar section. That's fundamentally what punks are. And so if we look at Malp's track here, let's figure out what they are. Now right here, an entry is technically a P1 because it's a punk that happens at the beginning. It's just a structural moment. It's a really important structural moment. And so we're getting the woo and we're getting these other sounds. And another important concept about punks is it doesn't matter what you do. It only matters that you do them. And this kind of goes into the theme of what I'm talking about today, which is kind of abstracting backwards. We're just kind of zooming out. And so if I just put like a thing here, this is very abstract, right? Just do something here is basically what it's going to be amounting to. And then do something here. There's going to be a punk cluster. And then do something here. Now we can see how Malp's executing these, but you can always see that the important structural moments are going to be accented in probably 90% of the time, and so let's see what's going on. So we get the ooh. We got also, you can also consider that kind of like, what's it called? That bump laser to be a little bit of a P1 cluster. So an entry cluster. So you've got the woo, and then you've got the laser that follows it. So a little bit of a bump right there. And then over here, when we get to the 4, so there's a lot of things that happen around this moment, around this structural moment. We've got the vocal, we've got the delay, we've got the male vocal, we've got this little snare fill, and then we've got this little cowbell after. See, so all these moments. So check this out. Look at the layout of it. So this hits, then this hits, this is kind of following the double snare right there, the 16th. She gotta, right? Those are playing 16th notes. And then we've got the delay. We've got the new octave down woo. And then we have the cowbell. So you could see the sequencing of this punk cluster. But you can see that it's all happening around the 4-bar mark. All right? And so a lot of times, if I tell someone to do a punk, you could keep it really simple. You can just have like a little snare hit. That might be enough. A lot of tracks just have that. But you can see if you want to be a little bit more creative with it, you can get a little bit crazy. You know, this is a pretty sophisticated sequencing of sounds right here at the 4-bar. All right. Now this right here, you can think of as a 6. So if we play that, this to me is a little bit more of a trigger. It's almost like an edit trigger without the edit. It's just signaling that we're going to be switching to a second 8 bars. It just creates a little bit of attention. A lot of times you would actually like high pass right here. And so if I high passed, for example, if I got an EQ and I just dropped it on here, this is going to make a little bit more sense on what that little snare roll does or could do, which is an edit trigger. So if I then come back over to here and I then, let me just look. So let's turn this off and right click, show automation. And where is it? Like right here. A lot of times this is what you would do. Like you can just have an edit, and an edit is really what would make a P8 more dramatic than what's going on with the P4. This P4 is very dramatic and he's actually being a little bit held back, reserved in the P8s. But if you were going to do like a high pass edit like this, then that immediately makes it more dramatic because you're removing the low end from people dancing momentarily. But what I'm saying is this little guy right here, you can't think of it as a P6 because it is a punk that plays literally at the 6-bar mark. But the way I see it is it anticipates an edit. So I'll show you how that would feel. So check this out. Right? And so that's kind of how I feel. We're just getting that kind of thing without the edit, without the actual edit. So that's kind of how I'm seeing that. But that's just me, you know. Or at the same time, it's like, hey, let's put a fucking random snare there. It could be that too, you know. But music, a lot of this stuff has specific functions, right? It's tapping into patterns in our brains and making us feel things, right? And so that is what it's making me feel. Let's go. Right, so again, pretty subdued P8 here. Most of the time, if you're going to go listen to any other arrangement breakdown I did or other tracks, you'll probably see a little bit more of a dramatic P8 there, like when I was high passing it right here. But he's just steamrolling through, and then this just repeats, right? But then we're getting a lift right here. So just like before over here in this drop, this right here, this hat, is a lift, all right? And then this lift, look at, happens in the second 8 bars. What happens in the second 8 bars of the B section? We get a lift. So with punks and edits, both ideas, it doesn't matter what you do, only that you do them. They are things, little tools that you could pull out of your little toolkit at any time, and it will always work because it will have the intended effect of just slightly lifting the energy. And so in this case, he's lifting with a hat. In this case, he's lifting with a little vocal down here. Now this vocal, if it's gaining up, which I think it is, can also serve as a transition. It starts to move us in and bring us in to the next section. So it's kind of serving a dual purpose there. Oh boy, this is going to be a long one, but let's keep going. Cool. All right, so let's go into this. All right, so a little bit of like a false start into this break, which is interesting. So I'm going to just go like this, and we're going to call this break 2, just like that. All right, so let's see what the heck's going on in break 2. So let's keep it simple because there's some crazy shit going on. So let's see. So definitely high pass on both of these guys. So I'm just going to do the HP. We'll do HP down here as well. But a little bit of a false start on this. So cut that. And then there's just a crazy vocal box, weird panning text for texture. And so let's just pop that in and keep it in the 8 bars right there. So cool. Now this is kind of a cool move. This is subtle, but like if you're going to introduce something new like that, this is very abrupt. And the cool thing is that Malp took out a lot of the drums. Well, not a lot. They took out the drums and the bass underneath it. So that's kind of the only thing playing for a moment. A little bit of texture behind it, but then bringing things in. So it just gives you a moment to kind of smack you with that sound before you fall back into the rest of things. This is kind of an analogy for something cool that you can do in drops, where let me just give you one example and then we'll move on. But a lot of times with breaks, you can think of the purpose of breaks as introducing the hook that's going to then play over the drop, right? So here we were talking about how the hook was introduced and then later came on top with the groove in the hook drop. And so you introduce something first and then you put it over the groove, right? Now, one thing you could do though is if you don't fully introduce a hook in a break, and let's say you just have like a piece of the vocal repping. So let's see. Little bit, 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 and then boom, you go into the drop. What you could do is you can go into like a strip drop. So it would be kick, bass, and then hook. So strip for me is just where you strip back all the drums, for example, and you just are left with the kick and the bass. This is something you hear a lot of times in like a breakdown section, a main break and build where they break down to the strip. But what you can do is you can introduce the full hook for the first time in the drop. Just do it over a strip because you're just kind of simplifying the context for someone hearing that vocal for the first time. So you're not overloading them. And then once they kind of get it, after 4 to 8 bars, you can bring the full groove and full drums back in. You've probably heard that before, but that's a much more dramatic and application of this little thing that he's doing here, where a new sound comes in and he's pulling things back as it gets introduced, and then he brings it back in. So it happens very quickly, but it's something that you can think about in terms of introducing something new, where you just strip things back for a moment and then bring it all back in. Again, it happens extremely quickly, but it's an application of the concept. So and now you're never going to hear that the same again. All right, so these drums are low passing down, so let's just do LP down. I'm pretty sure there's like a reverb on the bass. You can hear this kind of deep atmosphere going on. And my T's warming up, so that might interfere with the microphone for a second, but let's do some reverb here. Cool. I don't know if that's reverb on the bass. It might be, but there's definitely an effects up coming, and it probably just starts down to the lower register, but and then we get a little bit of a male vocal right there, so a little bit of a delay with kind of a bandpass type of distortion. So let's just do the loud. Cool. So I'm just going to continue this up effects. Let's just get everything over here. I'm going to go like this, and then we'll just move these back a little bit. So that's a little bit of an accent effect. It sounds like, I'm not sure if that little ha-ha thing is part of that kind of new vocal that comes in, but oh wow, I'm just gonna, so I'm just gonna write, I think they're saying oh wow, let's see, So, oh wow. Okay, there we go. So now you can hear that the low pass is going up, right? So down and then up. So cool. We're getting a little bit of a kick roll here. Okay, so I guess we can do that on the edit map. The kick roll is the same as the snare roll, but you know, you're using a kick. So we got a kick roll. Here we go. So right now you can hear it playing eighth notes right there. So boom, 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 boom. It might speed up to 16ths. So it doesn't speed up to 16ths. So. All right, but we're definitely getting some kind of snare roll there. So this is a very interesting section. I'll tell you that. We'll probably look at this whole minute right here later on, but that's an interesting little minute right there. Okay, let's get the freaking snare roll in here. So let's see it right here.
She got it.
Now I'm just gonna map out the regular snare also here. So here, I think. Let's see. Play. What's going on? Oh, there we go. Okay, so that's, and then did it. So here. So bop, bop. Hold up. That's actually right here. So bop, bop, bop. Let's see. So yeah, that's right there. Bop, bada. So. All right, cool. And then we got the she gotta right here. Do we have a she gotta right here? Nope. So this whole thing is really just this weird ass vocal texture and a riser. And the drums low pass down and low pass up. Really not overthinking it, you know. And then here we have a little bit of a kick roll too, just to create that tension back. And, you know, a little bit of like a snare kind of, you know, pattern, whatever.
Yes, how I like it.
Boom, and now we're going back to the A section of this drop. So let's get this whole thing and move it over here, and let's see how much of it is kept, right? Okay, so remember, pattern. Let's see if the pattern continues, right? We're not reinventing the wheel. It's just going to be, hold up. This needs to go on the track below because this is the male vocal. For those of you that have OCD, I apologize for that. All right, here we go. Let's go. Hold up. Okay, let's see if there's any drum lifts going on. So here, so again, small hat, big hat. All right, so we definitely have the new hat in there. Cowbell. That was not in there before. So let's move this in. You got that accent effect right there, that crash. Notice how that cowbell works with everything, right? This is kind of touching on a concept that I think of as self-awareness in a track, where the track is just aware of itself. So it's not tripping all over itself. Like when we were going through the P4 over here, that's a good example of awareness as well, because the sequencing of the sounds makes sense. Like nothing's really stepping on each other. It all makes sense. But notice how this cowbell doesn't play when the vocal plays. right? Perfect. And then notice how the cowbell doesn't play over the melody. Now, it would be okay if the cowbell played with this melody, because you can almost think of that cowbell as accenting a moment in the melody, but it's just not. It's not playing with it. It's just adding, it's just kind of playing in a little bit of a gap, you know? So, pretty cool. All right. Lots of good stuff in this track. Lots of good stuff. Super, super advanced, right? Super sophisticated. It's all pretty simple in terms of concepts, but the execution of the concepts is very creative, you know, and that's kind of like what you see a lot of the times is that, you know, I have a lot of like on the nose executions of concepts. You have like creative executions of the concepts and the principles, and that's what we're looking at. So really cool. Up. What did we get? We got the splash hat. So notice how he's kind of bringing in these extra little flourishes from back here into now where the vocal's playing, where they didn't have that happening back here. So all these little drum flourishes that are brought in the B section are now coming in over here. All right.
Yes, how I like it.
So we got the male, we got the female backwards, right? Again, that's a really good example of a mixing concept of depth, right? He's playing with depths. He's pushing that vocal back with a reverb, the delay of it, so that male vocal, which is a little bit more intimate and whispery, can sit in front and have the presence. So, yeah, again, sophisticated. It works.
Yes, how I like it.
Oh, look at this. We're getting that faster presentation of the snare fill, right? So before, check this out. So, where are you? Okay, this guy, right? So it just goes the second 16th note, and then the snare hits on the beat, right? We don't get the fourth 16th note. So, but over here, when he starts to add in the kind of drum flourishes in this drop, we're getting the faster presentation of the snare. It's because we're going to get that fourth 16th note. There you go. Badass. Really well done. Like, seriously. So, hook, drop. And so, like, I almost hate to say it, but, like, a lot of times it is the devil in the details. And, like, if you can't hear them, hopefully this video will give you an eye or an ear for this level of detail. Because if you can start, and, you know, if you try it, just try executing it in your own way. You're maybe not going to hit it right away, right? Because you're trying a deeper level. You're stretching yourself beyond where you've ever tried before, but you'll get it. You have to hear the detail in order to execute on it, you know? And so hopefully this is helping in that regard. So let's go. Mr. Cowbell's back. Okay, and we gotta watch the male vocal. Are we getting the right?
How I like it.
Yep. She got it, and then here we're gonna get the So again, representation is showing the pattern. There was a breakdown I did of West End's track, Drum Death, which is one of my favorite examples of a pattern because it's so well done. It's so simple. But this is like another pattern too, but just pretty sophisticated. Splash hat on the clap. Let's see. Ooh, interesting. The splash hat doesn't happen on the clap. On the clap in this case. It happens on the 16th, like before, like back here. So that's interesting. Why? My guess, do we get this snare thing? We don't get this snare thing. My guess is that Mal P didn't like this splash hat on the 16th just before the snare. And so that's why maybe he dropped it a little bit before. You see that? Because if you had that splash hat and then just triggered the snare, which probably wouldn't have been that bad, you know, but maybe he just didn't like it. And so maybe it just felt rushed. So he just moved it back and then the snare triggered. But over here, you can see that we don't have the snare thing and we have a different placement of the splash hat, which is in its kind of original location when it starts playing. And so that'd be my guess, because then these, another way to say that, there's a little bit of separation between these two, right? And so maybe that's what he was going for. But here we don't get that snare fill, but we do get the splash hat on the 16th. So just find that interesting. Yeah, remember? And then so that means probably over here we're going to get the chords again that are going to interact with the yeah, just like they did in the previous. We'll see it. You can hear a little bit of a riser starting to bubble underneath, I think. So I'm just going to go ahead and put one in there. Ooh, you can hear it down there. Boom, she carrying it. All right, a little bit of an accent there. I could be wrong about the up effects there, but if I'm wrong, I'll just freaking delete it, right? Okay, let's pay attention. Let's see. So we got the... Ooh. Look at that. That's sick. I missed that. Did that happen anywhere else? Nope. So what am I going on about? The double kick and the bass cut. All right, check this out. So boom. So there goes the bass, and let's map out the double kick here. And double kick's just my term for, a kick that plays what you call it. Doubly. On the 8th note, right? So the bass goes away. So sometimes producers ask questions, right? Like, which makes sense. Like, if I do a double kick, do I have to cut the bass? And so, of course, if I'm in the moment, I'm going to answer that question. But one thing, like in these arrangement breakdowns that I want to show you, is the value of doing what I'm doing. Like, yeah, you can watch me do this and probably get a lot out of it because I'm going to introduce you to a language and a level of detail that you might not have seen. But everything that I'm saying out of my mouth right now comes from me doing this hundreds and thousands of times. Like I said, not hundreds of thousands. That would be way, I don't think I'd live that long, but hundreds or thousands of times. And, but the key point I want to just drop right now is all you have to do is look. Or maybe more aptly would be, all you have to do is listen, right? So if anybody had the question like, hey, I want to do a double kick, what should I do about the bass? Well, look at what Mount B's doing. He's just removing the bass, So that's an answer to a question just by listening, Now, yeah, and so definitely listen, and you'll get a lot of answers that way. So... All right, let's move this snare over here. And I just want to, oh my gosh, there we go. Let's make sure I'm not missing any snares right here. Okay, just a really small one. So what is going on? Okay, I think I'm going too fast. So I think this guy is what we're... Yeah, we just have that little guy. And again, I've copied this over, so I don't want to gloss over it, but look at how the pattern continues. This is a 16-bar pattern, because here, let's see, let me show you what I'm on about. So here we have listen to the male vocal under the first 8 bars, all right? So this is the hook drop A section, all right? This is the A section with the vocal. And listen right here with the male vocal. Boom, she got it, and then no male vocal, female vocal, right? So there's no male vocal, but there's a female vocal. Listen what happens in the second time around. Okay. Now the male vocal is playing with the female vocal, right? So there's a slight variation there on the pattern in the second 8 bars. And then that gets brought over here. Again, not reinventing the wheel. You give something cool over here, just play it again. And there you go. So there you go. Cowbell. Did I miss the cowbell right here? Yeah. I can almost with 100% certainty say that the cowbell's right here. There it is. Okay. And just like I said, like, of course, that chord comes back. So let's go back. Oh, it's right here. So we already got it. I already brought it over, but let's see if there's anything different about it, though. So we got the and the yeah. So here's something different. So before, there was no chord, there was no bass line playing with it. All right, but now he has the bass line playing with it. So check this out. So we need to bring this over. All right. What about the sub? Is the sub there? One thing we definitely need to do is just go like this with HP. Now right here I have kick cut. Is there an actual kick cut? Now this is just a high pass on the kick net. So we're still getting the sub. You can still hear the sub down there. If we look at a spectrum analyzer, you can see it. And there he is. Or she. Whoever. One thing that I didn't notice before is the sub actually jumps up too. So if I take this guy and move it down, and you can see that if I come back to the spectrum analyzer, boom, right there. It just jumps up. So that's cool. That's probably over here. Let's just check. Instead of playing guessing games, let's just check. Yeah, it's over there too. So I'm just going to move this down right there. Okay, cool. All right, let's keep going. Holy shit.
Yes, how I like it. She got a whole lot more than a little bit. Yeah. She got bells.
All right, main break and build. Cool. So I'm gonna go like this, and we're just gonna call this MBB for main break and build for now. Let's check. So this is just gonna be a high pass bass, so HP for the bass. So this is also gonna be a high pass on the kick, and we got that ooh entry here. Let's go. Accent effect, right? Where's the accent effects? There. Let's go right here. Just 808 symbol thing. Oh, and listen to that. We got the cool freaking laser bump. And guess when the laser bump played before? It played with the who. Look at that. And then we're bringing the bounce back. Listen, there's no way that like an average listener would be able to pick up on bounce. Maybe they'd hear someone saying bounce, although pretty unlikely, but it's previewed. All right. And so now bringing it in over here. All right. So obviously it's not playing every quarter note there. So let's figure out when it's playing. So it's playing on the snares, for example. Okay, so cool. So then he cut it on the little edit right there. So there we go. And you can hear the texture coming in. And I want to make sure that I haven't ignored the texture. So no texture there, but you can hear the texture here. And then he dropped on the oohs over here. So just like before, and I guarantee, I think I even just heard it, that we're going to get the, is this octave down? Cool. We're also going to get another one of the lasers. So again, just look at the patterns that get established and repeated throughout. Just now, now the cool thing about this is that this pattern is repeated, but it's in a different context. So this context here is a drop. This context here is not a drop. So that's kind of cool. So I'm going to just do like, so this is just him flipping the bass, just reversing the bass. So I'm just going to write rev on there. So maybe we'd be able to see it in the waveform, maybe not, but you'll see that it's just, yeah, you can see it's just reversed. He's just reversing the bass. So there you go. Okay, that's cool. Again, unique. You know, you don't really hear that often, but it's cool. You don't hear like just people reversing basses, but then that is playing where? At what bar mark? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So right at the P4. Okay. And now he's going to lift with the... So the beat right here in the beginning is just HP kick, so high pass kick. And then this is, we're going to write HP kick plus clap. So now the clap comes in. I mean, I say clap, but I should really say this. So you can hear a little bit of an up effect or riser. So we'll just pop one in there. Okay, the texture cuts. So let's just cut that. Just some fun cuts. I mean, that's something that I could take away from my own tracks, is like, there's just these really cool kind of random cuts that I just like. They just grab your attention. Like, it's interesting. It's harder for us to hear, I shouldn't say us, it's harder for like a layperson to hear a cut than it is to hear a new sound coming in. Just like it can be harder if you're doing frequency tests, like if you're practicing mixing, to hear, it's easier to hear someone boost a frequency. Like, what frequency am I boosting? You're boosting 1K, as opposed to what frequency am I cutting? It's harder to hear cuts than it is when you add something new, but you feel it. So again, just a little bit of reverse on that, a little bit longer. So that's cool. And a little bit of reverse on the snare, right? So we can just write rev snare right here too. Cool. Just being clever. That's just Mouthy being clever right there. All right. Tops come in. So we got a low pass down on the female vocal. So let's go like this, and we'll do LP for low pass. Let's see. I'm going to write full drums here. Full beat. I'm going to write low pass. Could just be gained down with like a shelf. It doesn't sound like it's really getting hit hard with a filter, but maybe. So no more reverse. So that's the end of that. Oh, this is kind of cool. He's playing the melody with the chorus for the first time. We haven't really heard that. So back here you had kind of the melody, the female vocal melody, and then in the B section you got the sound design. But now we're getting the melody and the sound design for the first time. And that might be setting up them both playing over here. I don't know. We'll see. But that would be an example of a preview that where the listener is smart subconsciously. There's no way like a layperson in the club is going to ever pick up on any of this. But they subconsciously kind of pick up on the story. And what I mean by that is if we have this main vocal here and we have this main synth and they don't play together, subconsciously the listener's wondering if they're going to play together. And so if you then brought them together in the last drop, that would be a resolution in and of itself, right? It's a subtle resolution because the brain, because there's going to be this subtle tension from these two main hooks never playing together. And you don't have to have them play together. So for example, you could just keep it clean with an A section, B section, and then just repeat A section, B section later. But something that can serve as a pretty powerful resolution is if you have two main hooks and you don't play them together for the entirety of the track except for the last drop. You can almost think of it as like a main punchline for the track where you're keeping them separated and then the punchline is you bring them together, right? So it's kind of a higher level resolution, but it still hits emotionally, subconsciously. So, all right, let's keep that. Now we're getting a rep. I really like this a little bit more than a lot. I love this because this is a cool example of where I might have a block in my own productions where I might wonder, like, which right now I'm going to judge myself and say it's a little bit of a silly question, but like, if I just wanted to start a rep, maybe I'll just start the rep right away, like it, right? But what I like about what he's doing is he's playing the start of the vocal and then he just reps the parts that he wants. You know, I just like that. Because I can even feel myself saying like, man, I could feel myself presenting myself with this choice of either I play the full vocal and then I go into a rep, or I just start with a rep here, right? But I like this third option because it's like, dude, just play it and then rep the piece that you want. I really like that. And so that's kind of me just having my own kind of insight there. But, you know, it's just cool listening to this stuff because then you can learn how to break your own kind of patterns and stuff. Let's get that laser in there. Cool. And do we have the hoop? Sure do. All right, let's move this over. And I'm just going to move this whole thing over like that. All right, cool. Now, what's this bounce? Is the bounce still playing? Bounce. Or is he just randomly saying bounce in like maybe 2 areas of the track? So one thing I definitely want to make a note of is listening to the bass open. So bass opens. Cool, over time. Yeah, all right, cool. So he doesn't have this play here. So he has the who, and he does the low octave. Yeah, he does. So he has the laser. Does he have the laser here? No laser here. Cool. So almost now just an entry. And now this is kind of like, you could think of this as, you can even see it visually. Like the reason why there's not that extra, that second kind of ooh and second kind of laser is this is, you could think of this right here as the break, and this is the build. And so this break is kind of like a static section. It's not evolving. It's not moving. And so you can have like the high octave ooh and the laser, and then the low octave ooh and the laser, because it's relatively static through here. But this is now going to start evolving. And so this is almost like, this sound right here is like the entry for it, and it triggers that evolution over time. And so having kind of this move right here where you step down an octave just doesn't make sense in this context, because that's not what's happening anymore. We don't have a static context for you to kind of play around with going high and then low. What's happening now is everything is going to start to point upwards. Everything is going to go up. And so that's kind of what we're going to be looking at with all of this stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and just check this off, because I don't think that this is right here. Let's see. All right, so this is growing. So there's like a reverb or something in the vocal getting bigger. All right, and now we have this kind of distorted vocal Vox. Maybe I'll just put it on the Vox Mel, because that's what it is. And I'll just write distorted and what the lyrics are. So this is like distorted, and she got a whole lot more. Okay, so this continues. This is also low passing up, LP up. Bass is opening up. Let's see what else. We've got risers down here. Is the melody still going? Yeah, the melody's still going. Does it drop down here in an octave? Listen. No, it does not. So it stays static. So again, similar kind of idea. What I said is we're not going to just have, we don't really have a static context, a stable context to kind of like move things around in an interesting way. Everything is now moving in one direction up, right? So to move this down just wouldn't make sense given the context of building the energy and everything pointing upwards. I have no idea what he's saying here. So, but then it just ends in delay. So ends in delay. Yeah. What was he saying? No clue. Someone can tell me. I have not even a little bit of an idea. Snare roll, of course. Good Lord, missed that. Let's get the snare roll. Snare roll. Cool. And this is just not an 808. So it's probably just coming up over time. We'll just put it there. And this just kind of low passes up as well. So the bass you can hear right here starts to high pass up. So it starts to thin out a little bit. The vocal also dries up. I think, let me see. It's pretty wet over here. Starts to kind of dry out right here. Okay, cool. All right. And then, so that is a massive build section. So that's a 24 bar build section. A lot of times, like a traditional main break and build, you've got basically 16 bars of break and then 16 bars of build. In this case, 8 bars of break and then 24 bars of build. And then we get into here what I call a payoff extension. And what I'm going to do, and you may or may not know this, but if I hit an insert time signature change, the annoying thing about payoff extensions here is, and what I mean by payoff extensions, it's just the payoff is extended from where it would otherwise be, which would be right here. And so the payoff could totally be right here, for example. And so it lands on time, and then you just kind of have this build section like that. Now, of course, that doesn't make a lot of sense right now, but the problem is now this whole thing has shifted off time with the grid. And so what you could do is I could just right click up here, insert time signature change. I'm just going to hit enter. It's still 4/4. But now this lines back up with the grid, you see? And so that's going to be a little bit easier for us to look at. And so I'm going to go ahead and just put a little arrangement map in here and color this yellow and call this PO or payoff extension. Cool. And this is just the full vocal. So, not the full vocal because he's going to do that glitch thing, which is sick. Now, payoff extensions is something that just makes me lose my mind when producers do it. Not necessarily in this case, but like, because a lot of times producers want to do tactical things so that they think their track is cooler as a result. And I totally get it. Because it's production tricks, let me be fancy. I want to be cool. I want to impress the other producers out there, and fine, fair enough. But in this particular case, if you're going to do a payoff extension, there's one thing you just have to make sure you do, and that is make sure you count it back in, because the worst thing you can do in the biggest moment of the track is not tell the listener when the drop is going to land, because this is like this, where the cursor is the most important moment in this entire track. And if the listener doesn't feel that, then all the work that was done throughout this whole arrangement just doesn't matter. It's thrown away. Okay, because this is the punchline of the track, kind of like what we talked about before. And if it doesn't land, if the listener doesn't know when that's going to hit, and all that pent-up anticipation that they had, everything that they've absorbed along the way to get excited about this last ultimate moment, if that doesn't pay off, then the entire point of the track is just gone out the window. It's like a joke that doesn't land. It's like an Amazon package that never comes, you know? And so you have to, at least, if you're going to do a payoff extension like this, and you're going to freak the brain out because like that's not what they expected. They expect the drop here to land because we work on its clock. Our internal clock tells us that we're expecting to land here. Malpi denies that expectation. And so people are like, ooh, what's going on? I'm interested. But if they don't know when that last moment hits, the whole track kind of is undercut. And so you have to let people know when that happens, and Malpi does that. Now, this trick right here with the da-da-da-da-da-da, that will just create a sense of total chaos in the mind. We have no idea where we are. We're going to immediately be lost. So if I just duplicate that over and don't count it off, that's what's going to ruin the moment, okay? See, that doesn't work. But he counts it off through a descending bass line, okay? And that's why this works. It's subtle, kind of. It's a huge freaking move when you look at it and understand it. But that subtle distinction between telling the listener when it's coming back and not is the difference, is a make or break difference for this payoff extension working or not, and therefore the entire track working or not, all right? It really is that dramatic. It's really the difference between a DJ playing it or not. So that is the count off. 1, 2, 3, 4, but through bass steps. So I'm just going to put this on the bass channel right here. But we're just going, I'm just going to pretend that I know what the notes are. But it's just going like this, right? And these, you can imagine these are sixteenths. So. And that is what makes it work. And it does work. It's awesome. It's really cool. But it's very, very easy to get that wrong, especially when someone has the desire to be tactical for the sake of being tactical, right? But this is cool. All right, so here we go. All right, so let's see what's going on in this drop. So let's get some of the drums, because obviously there's a little bit of difference going on in here. So full kick, all these guys. Let's get all this. Do we have all the full drums and stuff? So we don't have the full hat lift. If I go back earlier in the track, like over here, right, you get that really nice kind of distorted, saturated hat. Oh, I guess we do have it. Okay, I misspoke. Hold up. Ah, it just comes up. See, there's a mixing automation right there. So I'm just gonna, so let's just write like quiet, and then it comes up. So there you go. Now, the reason why that's important is because that vocal is playing on the one end. So it's playing on the offbeats. And so having that loud hat with the vocal at the same time could be a total disaster on the master limiter. Not really. You could certainly make it work. But in this case, he's just very brute force solution of what's more important, the vocal or the hat? Well, in this case, it's the vocal because it was creating the excitement at the start of the drop. So let's turn the hat down, right? Like very practical solution there. And cool. Cool. So this is now. So you can even hear how that hat comes back in. So this is playing on eighths. So we'll go bop, 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 bop. And then it plays on quarters. So bop, 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 bop. Ah, love that. That freaking splash hat. Listen to what that thing does. It cuts the vocal off and moves us into a ride lift. So this is really cool. So this little hat that we've been hearing at the same time now takes on a new meaning and role in this very specific moment. And it takes on the role, two roles. It takes on the role of a choke. So if you think of like an open hat, and you can have choke groups in like simplers. I'm not going to go too deep in this, but the very simple idea of a choke is that when one sound plays and then the other sound plays, that second sound that plays stops the first one or chokes the first one. And so this splash hat here feels like it chokes the vocal. It's the end. It's the period of the vocal, but it's also a trigger for the ride lift. And so this is a really cool sequence of sounds. Very sophisticated, like sophisticated in the sense that your average producer wouldn't think to do this, because they just maybe wouldn't have enough experience producing. They haven't broken down tracks like this. They just conceptually wouldn't think of it. But now you can. And so this, again, the terms here would be a choke for the vocal and a trigger for the ride. All right. And so, but again, listen to the self-awareness of it. So we have the vocal, we have that splash hat, cuts the vocal, starts the ride. Really cool. Right? Like I want to play it again. Just listen to that, right? Detail. Like it's just really good. Man, oh man, really good track. Like it's cool because it works obviously on a macro level because the macro hooks are cool, like cool groove, awesome 303 bass line, cool female vocal hook. I like the lead. The lead's a little bit more of a secondary thing. Male vocal's kind of cool too. But like the micro level of this track is just really primed for sustained listening. Like you get rewarded by listening to this track over and over because there's a lot of subtle details here that I have to painstakingly go through to hear them. And so if a layperson listening to this track over time, they're just going to be these little things that they pick up on that are just really, really cool. So ride. And that's kind of the magic of, could say micro production or details. It just allows people to keep listening to the track without it getting old or boring. Okay, so here we have a ride lift. All right, so let's check out the snare fill. All right, do we have a cowbell? Probably not. I'm going to guess no because a cowbell will get in the way of the vocal, but let's see. All right, so no cowbell. Let's see. Probably not over here either. If it's not going to be on the 1, it probably won't be on the 4. Oh, shit, okay. So that vocal wasn't totally random. We're bringing it back over here. All right. That's crazy. I like it. All right, and so this snare right here, let's see if you can get it. What is this for the vocal? All right, it's the same thing that this hat is for the ride. It's a trigger. The snare roll is, yes, a P4, but that's why I'm saying this is sophisticated. It's not just a P4. It's also serving multiple roles. It's almost like in chess. Like I'm not like a great chess player at all, but like a good move in chess doesn't just do one thing. It does multiple things. You can imagine a good move in chess plays both offense and defense at the same time, for example. Like maybe if you move your queen, it's protecting a piece that's under attack, but at the same time, it's providing a counterattack. So that queen is serving two moves at once. Same kind of thing here. Like when you get to sophisticated, almost like meta layers here, like you have that's doing two things. It serves as a punk, so you get that exciting structural moment, but it's triggering that vocal at the same time. So really cool. Like, it might sound like I'm overthinking this, but I'm really not, because we're literally hearing this as I'm talking about it, you know? Like, cool. And that's playing on the 16th. It's not playing on the quarters like before. Because why? Because that snare roll's not playing right here, you know? Cool. And let's put this over here like that. Here we go. So the hat does dip here, but we don't get the main. Let me just check. Or do we get another hat lift? Let's see. Nah, the hat lift is right here. Yeah, that's the same thing. So this is the smaller hat. So smaller hat, the hat lift actually plays over here, but it's still a quiet hat right there. So I do want to make like a note of it, I guess. I'm going to put it on the edit map, even though it's not an edit map. I just don't know where else to put it. So we'll just put like quiet hat. And I'm going to put an asterisk just to be like, check that out. That's cool. All right, so let's go over here. And we can get rid of the quiet hat there because we get the hat lift, full kick, full bass, hat lift. Let's bring the splash over. We'll extend the ride because I imagine that's going to keep going. We'll bring over the snare rolls. Am I forgetting anything? Let's see. Do we have any entries? Nah, we don't. So we're going in clean, kind of like over here. I like that. I mean, other than the vocal. What else is going on in these drops? So here we have this. I guess not much. Okay, cool. So I think we're pretty good. Hold up. We don't have this hit right here. So let me get rid of the beat. So we don't have that hit. We just have the 1E, and we don't have the and or the Yep. Okay. So going back to a little bit more simple, slowing things down as we work towards the outro. Same with this guy. So this is going back to the simpler snare pattern. And so let's duplicate this over. All right, hold up. Okay, so randomly stops. Crazy. What the heck? Okay, and then we have the cowbell start to come in. Now there's another sound that starts to come in too. Yeah, well, crazy that just comes over. Yeah. Okay, now there's a new sound that comes in, and it's the tom. So we'll go to tom. Let me see if it's playing over here. So the tom is not playing over here. Let me play the sound over here so you can hear the tom, what it sounds like over here. Okay? So the tom starts to come in right here. So bum, bum, bum. So it's just playing your kind of, oh no, not again. Not again. Get out of here. Stop recording. Get out of here. Okay. Can I quit? Let's quit Loom. It's just causing problems. So we're going bump, ba-dum, bump, right? So your dotted eighth note rhythm. So bump, bump, bump. There we go. And I will just loop this. We don't need to. Hold up, we got that female vocal. What the heck? Okay, cool. So there is a little bit of logic to the madness here. Let's see. Okay. Just using it as chops now. Splash hat, let's just check. Yep. There's a little bit of a syncopated hit right there. I'm just going to overlook it. It might have been playing. Is there? Okay. Oh, cool. And then a little bit more than. So we got the female. So we're going back to the pattern over here. Pretty sure. Let's see. Is that the right one? Yeah, we'll just move it over here and see what happens. I'm just going to put it right there so it's clean on time. And then I just moved it from the wrong section. That's okay. Let's go over here. Right here. This is what I want. Let's get it from the beginning. And then this. Okay, then we have this guy, and then we get this again. So let's duplicate that. Okay, the chords. Just kind of a crazy section here. Go like this. Is that the right? No, it's not the right because we have the payoff extent. See, again, how like all of these things. Now the delay keeps on going a little bit on this vocal, but you can almost see like the cowbell and that kind of weird thing as a, well, it's definitely a punk, but it's a P2 you could see. Or in this case, it would be P6 in a way. But it's also kind of a choke on the vocal. Although it still kind of plays, so not really. So you kind of have that up kind of laser effect thing. Slow right there. And then so randomly the yeah, but not the So why not? Okay. Okay. Let's check out the drums and bass under this. So this is a high pass. So let's go HP. This is also a HP on the bass, so HP. So any snare. A little bit of a rim shot on the right there. So I'm not going to map that because I'm way past that. Yeah, there's a little bit of a rim shot here, and I'm just going to leave this. Maybe I'll go like this just to kind of map out what the rim shot is, but whoops. So there we go. And I'll just write rim, I guess. I gotta zoom in a little bit. Rim. Cool. Cool. And so now I'm going to get the B section from earlier. So now we're just returning back to something familiar that was introduced in the first drop. Oops, that's not the right track. There we go. Cool. And so this is the A section. And so A equals just like, I'm going to put this word called spots. And spots is just like kind of random shit that happens. Ear candy in a way, but maybe punks would be better. That's probably a better way to do it. Let's just call A punks. Because it's not really a big star hook. It's just these little things that are going on. And then the B section, we definitively go back to the sound design. So we get the ooh, we just got to check it off. Are we going to get the lasers? Let's see. Yep, we get that. Do we have the accent? Yep. Do we have the cowbell? Yeah, we sure do. Obviously, we have the melody. We have the ride still going here. We probably have the tom still going, so I'm going to bring that over. And so this is definitely kind of like an elevation over what's going on before. So if I play over here. Oh snap, I missed the ride. Wow, I totally missed the ride back there, but now it's there, so that's good. What about the tom? Is the tom play? I don't hear it over there. Cool. All right, let's play from back here. So we get this, and then the big question is, does that splash hat hit on the snare? Let's see. What the heck? Okay, I'm guessing that some of the placements of these splash hats was not as intentional as Some of them were, but I don't know if it was just copied over. All right. So that's interesting. All right, cool. And sweet. So I'll just squeeze in my tea bag there. All right, here we go. But you see how that splash hat, like I said before, if you had the splash hat before these snares, it would be okay because it would be a trigger for that. And you can hear that now. It's totally fine. But before, the splash hat did not play right before those snares. It played on the clap, the 4 before the snares. So check this out. See that? That's a different placement that was going on over here. So I'm willing to say that was not intentional, but I could be wrong. I could definitely be wrong. All right, let's see. So female, we have the dot, now we have this delay on there. So we have the ooh, do we have bounce? Let's see. No bounce on this. Let's see. Okay, we're getting the up, down in the octave on this. We have the laser. Do we have a accent here? Let's see. We sure do. Do we have the cowbell? We sure do. A little bit more snare action going on. I'm just going to kind of... Let's see. So I'm going to delete this. Okay, so there we go. I guess I can map it out over here too. Yeah, we can just go like this. What about over here? Yep, and then we're having this guy as well. Have I been missing that though? I guess so, but that's all right. Cool. Cool. What's going on with the female? So this isn't a delay, this is a rep. Okay, so there's no vocal there. So this is just like a rep. So I'm going to color this blue. Like that. And then let's just rep this out. So. So we have that snare roll up here, which has the 30-second in it. Cool, and then kind of a similar thing that he did going into the main break and build, where you just kind of, was it the main break and build, or was it further back? Yeah, it was in break 2. Right, so where he cuts it, and same here, move going into the outro. All right, so he just cuts that first kick right there. So this keeps on going. All right. Okay, so full kick, full bass, and then we will zoom in and cut the kick on this guy. So like that. So we still have the hat lift playing, that scratchy, kind of chunky hat up there. See, again, just a random cut. That's a random. It could be like a mouthpiece signature. I have to go back and listen to more of his tracks, but like that is a definitive move right there. Like That's happened a couple times in this track, and it's definitely like a kind of pattern that he does. I think that's cool. I'm trying to listen if the ride's continuing here. It might have just gone down in volume. I'm just going to cut it because, you know, we're going to the outro. All right, what about the cowbell? So let's get rid of this. And then do we have the more kind of yeah, he doesn't have this. And then same with this guy. We don't have this one there. So this actually goes over here. And then same thing over here, I bet. Let's see. Down effect, so right here. Same thing, just another kind of kick cut. All right. Interesting. And then we just kind of have like kick hat. That's not kick hat. Tom, splash hat. Where's the splash hat? Is splash hat playing in here? Let's see. Yep, here. Yep. Here. Cool. Then we have this. But now we have the more faster pattern there, so, you know, what can you do? So in this case, we don't have that one. What about over here? Oh, okay, we don't have this one either. Okay, so. So this is kick cut. So no kick. Okay, and then we're going back to the crazy snare roll. Which one is it? Okay, so it's the one with the 30 seconds right here. Okay, and then like a final little snare fill thingy. Let's see. Maybe right here. So ba, 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 ba. Okay, I can actually look at it. I think that's right there. And then ba, ba. Okay, cool. Something like that. Woo-wee! All right. Good Lord. Wow. Okay. Takeaways from this track for me are detail. Jeez. And just the very creative execution of the basic principles, like the punk clusters, the triggers, the chokes, the kick cuts at random areas, the random cuts on the vocals, and just different sounds, just carrying things over, and just kind of is just really, really creative in terms of just these small, like, micro arrangement things. I find that really inspiring and freeing. You know, he's just playing around. He's just playing around with these ideas. Like, you know, even if he's not using exactly the language that I would use, he has something comparable in his mind, and he's playing around with the ideas, and he's doing it in a very creative way. And so that's cool to see. High level for people watching, for you watching this video, would be like, number one, just do these arrangement breakdowns are so valuable for yourself to do. And because you just pick up on a level of detail, but even for you, like, I highly just want to say that it's just a lot of it is just details. Like, keep going. Like, listen out for the small details that you hear in the tracks and experiment within in your own music, you know. Now, I don't want to say like go crazy with the details if you're a little bit more of a beginner, because obviously with a beginner, you really want to get the foundational principles in place. So what are the foundational principles? Well, for example, it would be like getting a simple structure down. So a very simple structure would be like intro, bass drop, break one, hook drop one, main break and build, hook drop two, outro. He has an extra break and drop in here. And this song probably could totally work if this entire minute was removed. This would be a traditional HD2 formula, which, you know, so many top tracks are your traditional HD2 formula. So you have your main hook drop, and then you have your main break and build, and then you go to your second drop. And so that would totally work also, but he just has this extra section in here. So what else are the fundamentals? So you've got a very, very simple and organized high-level structure. And so even his is high-level structure. You've got intro, bass drop, where you introduce the break, introduce the bass, break one, hook drop one, where you put the hooks over the groove, break two, where you just break things up a little bit, break down, then another hook drop, main break and build, hook drop, outro. Other things are going to be A section, B section. When you're making a drop, it's very safe to think in terms of A section, B section. We've seen that in this track as well. Punks and edits, we talked about that quite a bit. Those are basics. It doesn't matter what you do, only that you do them. And so what I recommend is just you taking these concepts, go listening to your favorite tracks and seeing how they're doing it, just to get familiar with these kind of higher level arrangement concepts and get those fundamentals down. And then when you execute it in your own track, when you're doing your own track, just play around. Like, it doesn't matter what, only that. Just try different sounds, try clusters of different sounds. And that was one of the things that we saw in the P4s here, these clusters of things. And so really, I think just, if I'm going to just say one thing about this track, other than the really cool macro stuff, like really cool vocal, really cool bass line, amazing drums, very 808 sounding, 808 and 303 kind of sounding track here. But the big takeaway for me is just the detailed work. Like, and I think that's where I'm going to leave it. So if you have any questions about what we covered here, leave them down below. If you have your own thoughts and comments or insights about this track and arrangement breakdown, leave that down below as well. In the description, you'll be able to find a MIDI map download for this. If you enjoyed this and you're still watching, go ahead and subscribe if you like watching extremely long tech house breakdowns, because that's what this channel is all about. And I might have some links down below if you want to work together in some capacity as well. Other than that, I will see you in the next breakdown. Peace.